Welcome to the Candid Podcast, your go-to spot for all things health and wellness and a no-nonsense take on the industry. I'm your host, Tyler Cuthbertson. In a world full of conflicting advice and hidden agendas, we're here to cut through the noise and provide unbiased information and debates for you. This podcast is about pulling back the curtains and giving unfiltered, raw information about health and wellness. We're here to share data without the need to satisfy shareholders or filter out info for profit. We also offer communion and debates with any viewer with opposing ideals, so DM us for a chance to be a guest in the future. Today's episode is about supplements, which ones to take and why. We also announce our first sponsor with Vigo Supplements. Make sure to check out our media pages at Candid Media Podcast on YouTube and at The Real Candid Podcast on Instagram. Now enjoy the show. So first supplement I want to discuss is magnesium. I consider magnesium a sleep amplifier. I'm not sure if that's an actual scientific statement at all, but I notice when I take magnesium, at least personally, I experience waking up and feeling like I was hit by a train, but in a good way, if that makes any sense at all. I wake up and I feel borderline immobilized, and then within 10 minutes, I feel like a superhuman because my body's actually awake. And I often experience having very wild and more frequent dreams whenever I take magnesium. And that's why I consider it an amplifier, because I feel more asleep and I have more symptoms of good sleep. So that's one of the reasons. And of course, good sleep results in 1,000 different benefits. Basically every benefit you can possibly think of. Having a good diet has the same benefits of getting proper sleep, exercise, all that good stuff. So magnesium is one I want to start with because it's one of the very few supplements that I can take and actually notice the next day. That and cordyceps, which I'll discuss later. Cordyceps are I call them the Batman mushroom because they basically turn you into Batman. But let's stick with magnesium for now. So here's my famous topic, the caveman ideals. When cavemen were doing their normal thing, running around outside, they were barefoot, of course, they didn't have any Nikes on, and they were sprinting around on rocks and grass. The truth is, our feet are actually able to absorb magnesium through the rocks and things beneath us. That's why there's such thing as magnesium patches and iron patches. You can absorb magnesium just through the bottom of your feet. So that is one of the many reasons that magnesium is so fundamentally important for humans to have. And it's also another thing with cavemen is when they drank water, which obviously they did, they got it from little puddles or springs. And of course, those are connected to rocks, and rocks have magnesium, iron, and all that good stuff. So all of the water that cavemen had was directly linked to electrolytes, and electrolytes are sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So yeah, that's another thing. Cavemen obviously had lots of magnesium, and so should you. The proper use for magnesium is usually taken in the morning or at night. I prefer at night because that's when I, like I said, notice the results the next day. I actually don't quite know the benefits of taking it in the morning. I just know that a lot of people have done that, incredible people. So, but when you take it at night, let's say 20 minutes before bed, you will likely wake up and feel different than you normally would, and probably have freaky dreams. You know, it's like melatonin, except you're not increasing your risk for schizophrenia and dementia. If you didn't know, taking melatonin orally or just outside of your body producing it has very serious health defects. Which includes, increased risk of dementia and schizophrenia, but also can also prevent your body from even producing it naturally. So you'd have to take it for the rest of your life, which obviously increases your risk for schizophrenia and dementia even more. So don't take melatonin even if you really, really have to. I'd say try some facial exercises, which it's really weird, but those can help you sleep massively. And magnesium. Magnesium is just a superpower in a pill. That's kind of what this episode's about. So yeah, take magnesium. I don't say this very commonly with supplements because they're so variable, but I think everyone should take magnesium. And believe me when I say that's a very bold statement because, like I said, there's too many variables when it comes to supplements, but magnesium is just so fundamental. I believe everyone should be taking it. And I think it's safe to say that anything that improves or amplifies your sleep quality is pretty much worth it. I mean, sleep is probably... I think it's safe to say it's the most fundamental thing a human can do for their health. If you weightlift and eat extremely clean, but you don't sleep adequately, you're going to see basically zero results. It's really that simple. So I absolutely recommend everyone to take magnesium, particularly before bed. Before I move on to any other particular supplements, I want to highlight that you really don't need any other external vitamins or minerals if you are getting the proper diet. and that would include, animal-based. I keep talking about that, and I'm sure some people might be getting sick of it, but it's extremely healthy, and I recommend everyone to try it at least. So let's say you're doing an animal-based diet. You're basically getting all the nutrients you need to live, and let's also assume that you're drinking water and you're getting sufficient electrolytes. That's really all the nutrition you need. You're getting fruits, you're getting red meat, you're getting organs, honey, all that good stuff. Assuming you're consuming the proper stuff, you don't need any vitamins. You don't need to take vitamin D unless you're not getting sufficient sun, which is obviously extremely important. I'll probably have a separate episode just for vitamin D and the amount of sun you get per day, because cavemen were in the sun for hours and hours every day. They weren't getting skin cancer. That's for sure. They were dying of diseases because they tripped and fell, cut open something, and diseases slipped in there. That's just how it goes. There's a reason that cavemen weren't dying of skin cancer, and that's because there weren't other external factors messing with their hormones, genes, and stuff like that. So, like when it comes to skin cancer, for example, there's 1,000 other things that could influence that. There's a lot of studies I like to pick at and make fun of that say, stay out of the sun, you guys, you're going to get skin cancer and all this garbage. I mean, they're very credible sources, at least the average person would think so, but like with a lot of studies, they're very cherry-picked ideas, and when you investigate a topic enough, you can find whatever you want with that topic. I can find reasons that chicken is cancerous, or I can find reasons that staring at a blue poster is going to increase your risk for heart failure. There's probably some logical reason you can grab a hold of and come to the conclusion that staring at a blue poster is going to give you cancer. There's always something you can come up with, but it's down to interventional studies and companies with their best interest in mind giving you raw information. That's what you want. So yeah, you don't need to take any vitamins if you're eating the right diet. That said, there are bonus things you can take. For example, magnesium, cordyceps. Even if you are getting sufficient electrolytes, taking magnesium before bed, granted it's not too much, can have massive benefits. So there are add-ons, little bonuses you can add to your diet that will have benefits nonetheless. Okay, this is probably my favorite section of any podcast I've ever filmed, cordyceps. Cordyceps are like part of me. I've been taking them for a long time. Like I said, they're basically Batman mushrooms. They're mushrooms that are grown in Vietnam and some places in Southeast Asia, I believe. Let me give a little origin story to these awesome mushrooms. Basically, they were little mushrooms that grew on ants and caterpillars, and these farmers, I don't remember exactly where. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was somewhere in Vietnam. There were farmers in Vietnam, and they noticed their sheep were getting a lot more active than normal. They were running around, doing their normal sheep things, but just more loud and, I don't know, moving around more, something like that. Whatever sheep do, but amplified. They noticed their sheep were more active, and they were like, why is this happening? So they investigated the farm. Turns out there's a lot of weird ants with these horns on them, and caterpillars with weird horns on them. And soon the farmers started taking them, and they noticed increases in their endurance, energy levels, stuff like that. That's the origin story of cordyceps, and it became public, and people started putting them in capsules. So basically, the benefits of cordyceps are increased brain function because it's a type of mushroom. It's actually known as a nootropic, which is the term for smart drugs. If you watch Andrew Huberman, you hear him rip on that term a lot because it's not a good clinical term. There's no spot in your brain for smart, because smart is too vague of a term. But generally, the average person, you tell them that it's a nootropic, it makes them smarter. They'll think, oh yeah, okay, I can compute things faster and all that good stuff. So they work as a nootropic. They boost your brain function. They also drastically increase your endurance. That's really the number one feature of cordyceps. Many athletes take them, including myself. But the biggest feature I've noticed, and this is just my personal story with it, my average rep range on Bulgarian split squat when this happened was about 16 reps. I know that's pretty brutal. If anyone knows what Bulgarian split squats is, they're probably thinking, wow, this guy's a monster. Anyway, enough bragging. Basically, I had a rep range of about 16. I took cordyceps for the first time, and the rep range went up to about 20. I can't think of any other factors that changed during that time. I took cordyceps 20 minutes before working out, and my rep range went up by 4 reps, which is pretty freaking crazy when you think about it. It's an endurance-based supplement and not at all a strength thing, but like I said, if you've done Bulgarian split squats, you understand it. You probably know that endurance does play a big role because it's just so painful. But anyway, it increased my strength, which is pretty wild to think about. And that's why I consider it a Batman drug. It also if you know Batman, he doesn't sleep very much, and cordyceps are also known for decreasing your need for sleep. Do not take that as a chance to get less sleep. That would be asinine in every way. So, yeah, that's why I consider it the best supplement of all time. More just because it's cool, not because it's useful. It is useful, but I wouldn't say it's as fundamentally important as magnesium. If you had to choose between cordyceps and magnesium, I would choose magnesium 100% of the time. But yeah, cordyceps are my favorite. I like to call them Tyler mushrooms as well, just to stroke my ego, and because no one else really talks about them except for me. Not that I'm a big voice or anything, but I absolutely love cordyceps. I order capsules every single month because I take so many of them. And yeah, I've gifted them to family members for Christmas. Like, that's the level of love I have for these mushrooms. Absolutely love them. I recommend them for everybody. Our sponsor, Vigo Supplements, actually has a mushroom complex gummy. They actually make only gummies, which I love. Something about pills seems a little demanding. I don't know why. It's like I heard Mind Pump talking about this. It's another podcast related to health. You guys should go check it out. They're great. A lot of the inspiration for this podcast is derived from them. Anyway, they were talking about how pills are kind of a demanding form of supplementation, and it feels like they're telling you, hey, take it at this time, all this stuff. And gummies are just this, yeah, I'll take one, sure, and that's where Vigo Supplements plays. So, you want to take them, whereas pills are like a little chore. But anyway, Vigo Supplements has a great mushroom complex, which has another thing about cordyceps and other mushrooms is it increases, it builds new neural networks, which is basically just the pathways of knowledge that your brain has. That's a very shallow and simple way of putting it, but basically that's how it works. And cordyceps and other mushrooms literally give your brain more opportunity for knowledge, if that makes sense. Once again, very vague and shallow way of describing it, but that's basically how it goes. The Vigo Mushroom Complex gummies have multiple different types of mushrooms and other nootropics that can noticeably increase your brain function. Take them, and you'll notice a difference for sure. That's just how it goes. They have cordyceps. I think they have lion's mane and some other ingredients which have massive benefits, and of course all the same benefits as cordyceps. So you're getting cordyceps and whatever else they put, which is other naturally sourced organic stuff. And lion's mane actually is basically cordyceps, except all of those potent ingredients or potent chemical compounds within it are put into the neural aspect. So instead of getting endurance, you're basically getting more neural network activation and creation. So stuff like that. Lion's mane is basically all nootropic, and cordyceps is nootropic plus endurance. So yeah, Vigo Gummies has an incredible mushroom complex, which I recommend. I'm actually about to purchase some right now because I'm very big on mushrooms. Mushrooms are incredibly interesting to me. This sounds like a little bit of a hippie thing to say, but psychedelics do have my interest. I haven't tried any, but they do pique my interest massively because of just their massive complexity. When you look at some of the history behind some of the mushrooms and how we've investigated them in the past few years, it's really, really crazy. I might get into that into a different video, but let's continue. Another one of my favorite supplements is Tongkat Ali. Not because it particularly piques my interest, but because it just has massive benefits and it does its job usually better than you expect it. So a lot of people have heard about something, which sounds very, very sketchy, that boosts testosterone up to 400%. You would hear that and go, that's a scam. That's outrageous. Boost testosterone up to 400%. That's got to be steroids, right? So the thing with Tongkat Ali, also known as Long Jack something, I don't remember. Obviously, they're pretty weird names, so don't expect me to remember something like that. Tongkat Ali is known to boost testosterone about 300% on average, which is pretty wild when you look at it. Now, I have to say this was all supplements that are resulting in benefits. If you don't eat at a good diet, you don't get sufficient sleep, you drink a lot of alcohol, anything like that, don't expect supplements to change much, because if the fundamentals aren't right, then having bonuses won't do anything. If you have a salary that's really crappy and you get a bonus, that bonus isn't going to do much. It's not going to get you very far. If you have a good salary and you get a bonus, that bonus is going to feel better. It's not a very good analogy, but the point is, if you don't have the fundamentals set, then don't expect bonuses to come and give you much benefit. If you don't have the proper diet, don't expect supplements to get you very far. Anyway, enough ranting. Tongkat Ali has massive benefits. I've taken it myself, and I did notice a difference in my testosterone, my energy levels. This is a weird way of describing it, but I describe testosterone as kind of the spice and the colors to life. because it just gives you that energy, that edge, particularly as a man. It's just that eagerness to conquer, and that sounds a little cliche, but kind of just a motivation. That's basically how I see it. Testosterone is just a massive motivator to get things done and be successful. That's the way I see it. And Tonka Ali definitely amplified that. And when you look at other sources and other people who talk about the supplement, they will say the same thing. It's a great motivator. It has the benefits that it says, up testosterone boosting up to 300%. The one that I took was from HTLT supplements. I'm not sponsored. Maybe someday we'll see that, but HTLT supplements make some great stuff. So yeah, Tonka Ali can definitely boost testosterone massively. I don't know the exact way it does it, because if you understand the crazy depth of some of these of hormones and receptors, then you know that it's nowhere near as simple as it just boosts testosterone. It has to go to the receptors, and the receptors do X, Y, Z. I don't know how it works, but yeah, it can definitely boost testosterone massively. I recommend, as with everything on this podcast, do your own research on what I say. Don't just trust me. So you hear about Tonka Ali, do your own research. Look at Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman's probably the number one influence for this podcast. I've learned most of my health information from him. So you're probably thinking, this guy's just summarizing Andrew Huberman videos. That's a little bit of what I'm doing. But that's pretty big convenience, considering his videos are on average probably 3 hours long. So yeah, Tonka Ali has massive benefits. If you want to increase your testosterone, that's the way to go. I want to talk about vitamin D very shortly, because there's not much depth to it. It's actually pretty simple. A very fundamental nutrient for humans is obviously vitamin D. One of the most common ways to get vitamin D is by being in the sun. Now, depending on where you live in the time of year, you might get less or more sun. What I recommend is, even if you do get, let's say, an hour a day of sun, vitamin D can still have a lot of benefits. Like I said, cavemen were in the sun for hours, maybe like 7 hours a day, which is pretty wild when you think about it. And they weren't getting skin cancer, right? So, like I said, there's other determinants of skin cancer. If you do fasting sufficiently, your likelihood of getting cancer decreases by 90%. That alone just tells me that there's something up with all these studies. Anyway, so let's say you're getting a pretty good dosage for the modern people of about an hour of sun a day, which is a lot more than the average person. You still could definitely use some more vitamin D. I mean, cavemen were getting a lot more than that. So I would say look at, like I said, like I say all the time, compare it to what a caveman did. Cavemen were in there for 7 hours a day. You're only in there for an hour. You might as well take another vitamin D pill. Now, I think I have to say this, actually. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a prescriptionist. I don't think that's a thing, but you know what I mean. Any lawyers looking to sue me, I hope you know what I mean there. But a good supplement company I recommend is Vigo Supplements, obviously, but they don't make vitamin D right now. Another one is Young Living, not sponsored, by the way. And Young Living has a vitamin D supplement that's all pure. The thing is, with most companies who manufacture vitamins, they like to sneak in their own little crap in there. Something like Vigo Supplements doesn't add garbage into it just to make it taste good. Most companies, like you go to a store and you look at the supplement aisle with all the vitamins. When you look at the ingredients, it'll be a little bit of vitamin D and a lot of seed oils, which is just so pointless to me. I mean, it's like walking up to a baby on the street and slapping it for no reason. That's probably the worst analogy I made in this podcast, and that says a lot. But I'm just highlighting how pointless and pernicious it is. It doesn't get you anywhere. In fact, it puts you down. Taking a supplement that has vitamin D in it, but also has seed oils. The point of taking vitamin D, for example, would be to increase the quality of your hormones and things like that, and your circadian rhythm, stuff like that. You adding seed oils just dumbs that down. You know why they do that? Because I don't. I have no clue why companies do that. It's very, very weird. So that's why it's important to have the right company. And for something like vitamin D, Young Living has very, very good stuff. That's the one I take. So yeah, I recommend most people should definitely be taking vitamin D. You very, very rarely encounter a situation where you think, I should probably be taking less vitamin D or getting less vitamin D. So that's why I'm a big advocate for it. I take vitamin D basically every day, unless I notice that I was in the sun for 2 to 3 hours that day, and I'll probably take a step back from there. Next supplement will be omega-3s. That'll include fish oil, cod oil, stuff like that. So these actually have massive benefits. They're usually fundamental for humans. Now, when it comes to cavemen, they weren't consuming fish probably very often. even if they were, I wouldn't advocate for the average person to be consuming fish because most fish does include loads of microplastics. They're grown on these really crappy farms. A lot of companies can, I think I said this previously, that a lot of companies can say it's farm raised, which is borderline fraudulent, even though they're in the ocean. I'm sorry, not they didn't say they're farm raised. They said they're ocean raised, fresh, free, right? But they're in the ocean. But within the ocean is there these like 10 feet by 10 feet farms, which is just, I mean, that's crazy, right? Don't quote me on that. That might not be exactly accurate. So, but yeah, fish does have a lot of omega-3s, and so does red meat. Red meat is rich in almost every nutrient fundamental for humans to have. It's known as a whole food, same with milk and things like that, which is why I'm such a big proponent of it. Anyway, omega-3s are extremely fundamental, but you will likely not receive any benefits from omega-3 if you have enough omega-6 buildup in your system, which is usually made, I'm pretty sure is usually derived from processed food consumption and probably lack of exercise. The average stuff that results in bad health. So live a dynamic, healthy lifestyle and then consume omega-3. So consuming omega-3s when you eat like crap probably isn't going to do much, which ties back to what I was saying earlier, that if you don't have the fundamentals set right, then don't expect any other benefits. So yeah, omega-3 is great, cod oil, fish oil, stuff like that. Make sure the only ingredients are those things and not seed oils, because that's a whole nother topic really that I'll probably discuss in a separate episode, that so many companies do not have your best interest in mind, and they'll throw things in there just for their convenience rather than your health. That's why I look for companies that, it sounds a little cliche, but kind of do it with love, which is something that Luke Belmar refers to a lot. He only eats from companies that make their food out of love and for care of their customers and have your best interest in mind. Most companies will make their or manufacture their product out of the urge to make money and purely that, rather than creating a good product. So they'll throw in crap. So yeah, watch what you're getting. And a very interesting point I like to make, just to kind of poke at the vegetarian space a little bit more. Not even all vegetarian, vegan, stuff that doesn't relate to red meat. Just that whole space. I mean, that's how big of a proponent I am of red meat. I consider anyone who doesn't like red meat a certain space in that space kind of being a little iffy, because they must be pretty uneducated, or inevitably that it must be because of uneducation. Because if you knew the importance of red meat, you wouldn't be advocating for vegetables only and things like that. At least I think there could be something I'm missing. I'm very open for debates. That's what this podcast is for. So if you disagree with me, hit me up and we'll have a separate podcast. Anyway, I noticed a lot of people in the vegan, vegetarian, longevity space. Typically, the longevity space consists of a lot of vegans and vegetarians. Maybe not veganism. Veganism isn't even correlated there, but vegetarian stuff. So a lot of fruits, grains, vegetables, things like that. Fruits are great. I'm a massive advocate for those. But I noticed there's a big guy in the vegetarian or longevity space. I can't say I remember his name. I'd like to call him out, see where that gets me. And he's basically spent millions of dollars trying to figure out what the perfect diet consists of for his longevity. And these are people, think about it like this. Longevity is based on living as long as possible. It's not about the quality of life. It's not about getting big or anything like that. His workouts are based on living as long as possible. What he eats is based on living as long as possible, having perfect biomarkers, things like that. What I noticed in some of his videos, though, is his diet consists of loads of grains, fruit, vegetables, and olive oil, like a super extra virgin olive oil, stuff like that, which I like, but I kind of like it. Anyway, but I also noticed within his diet, he takes like 60 pills a day. 60 pills a day. You're probably asking, why did he just live that big pause there? I just can't believe that people believe that this is the right way to live. He's training for longevity. He's trying to live as long as possible, right? And he chooses a diet that has such a massive lack of nutrients that he has to take 60 pills a day, around 60 pills. It's something like that. I think it might have actually been 60 pills a day, like 60 in the morning, 60 at night, which is just crazy considering he could have just gotten like maybe almost all of those nutrients within those pills within just one steak. I just can't believe it. He's eating loads of fruits, vegetables, grains, extra virgin olive oil, and still has to take 60 pills a day just to maintain perfect biomarkers. If that alone doesn't prove that something that is vegetarian-based is not sufficient for humans to thrive, I don't know what does. I mean, that alone is so much evidence of why that whole space is just, I don't like to say brainwashed, but just ignorant of the importance of red meat. Which is why I resort to the caveman stuff, because a lot of people will, throw things and point fingers at the vegetarian space and call them wimps or whatever, which is the common narrative I've noticed is people just like to kind of point fingers at them, but I like to use logic instead of being rude. Not that I don't enjoy being rude sometimes, but when it comes to that space, they really don't quite understand the whole idea behind the caveman stuff. Cavemen weren't eating only vegetables. That didn't happen. Vegetables are not a fundamental nutrient. The animal-based diet has absolutely zero vegetables, because vegetables are actually not meant for humans to eat, if you didn't know that. Vegetables have plant defense chemicals, which if you watch this podcast, you've probably heard by now. Plant defense chemicals are basically, if you don't already know, if you don't like this, if you already know, you can skip ahead. Plant defense chemicals are what they say in the name. So vegetables are hiding from you. When you think about like fruit, I'm surprised I haven't covered this already. I might have a separate episode just about the animal-based diet, which I'll discuss this some more, but fruits are hanging from a tree with their vibrant colors. Those vibrant colors are signaling to your eyes, hey, I'm here so you can eat me. I know it's a very weird way. It's not like trees are saying that to you, but through their weird forms of communication, that's basically what's happening. A tree makes its branches kind of swerve down and produces this big red circle, this being an apple. I'm not very good at describing. I don't know why I described it like that. But this big red apple for your eyes to catch on. When you're in nature, there's a whole lot of brown, green, stuff like that. And then you see this vibrant red or this vibrant yellow. That's fruit, okay? Vegetables are the same color. And maybe there's, a carrot, which is orange. But the truth is, fruits are there for you to see, and that's because the trees and the plants making them are wanting you to consume them. They're meant for mammals to consume, whereas vegetables are literally hiding from people and other animals. They're meant to be eaten by very specific animals like bunnies and things like that. Other vegetarian species, which humans are not vegetarian. Another thing is, the very statement that I am a vegetarian, that statement alone is wrong, because humans aren't vegetarian. They're built as omnivores. That's how we've thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. So call yourself a vegetarian all you want. The truth is that statement alone is false, which is its own thing. But anyway, so basically the whole point of that little rant was that the animal-based diet covers all the nutrients that humans need, and following any other diet, particularly something based around the vegetarian space, a lot of the information you even get there is just derived from, as an unprofessional word, garbage. So in that, I don't really trust that space. A lot of people associated with that space are, these nothing against college graduates, but a lot of the college graduate, or at least college information is kind of whitewashed and cherry picked. Doesn't like to use that. I like to use that term a lot because, like I've said multiple times, if you investigate a topic enough, you can find whatever you want from said topic. So yeah, if you want to live a long time, don't follow these longevity diets that you see on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, whatever. Follow the animal-based diet, because in order for you even to sustain, which I've said previously, in order for you to even sustain a longevity-based diet in a vegetarian-based diet, I know I'm butchering this phrase here, you have to take like 50 pills a day, which is crazy. I'm sure I've overlapped my points multiple times here, but you get the point now. Follow animal-based. Now on to a whole new realm of supplements, and I'll start this off with pre-workout. By a whole new realm, I mean like the industry of bodybuilding, which would be protein powder, pre-workout, creatine, stuff like that. So we'll start with pre-workout. Pre-workout is extremely fun. I will not deny that. I think it's incredibly fun. When I used to take it, I used to take 2 scoops every day, even when I was like 120 pounds, just ripping the weights. But pre-workout is incredibly fun. I would consider addicting, or actually it is addicting. But yeah, there's a massive thrill to it. It's like adding seasoning to your workout, right? The workout is the food, and the pre-workout is the seasoning. It adds a little fun to it. But with the fun comes some pretty serious issues. So I'm not going to go too in depth on the ingredients because for multiple reasons. One being that there's too many different ingredients and variables between different companies. Some companies have zero certain ingredients, and some companies use massive loads of it. So we're just going to go with the general rule that pre-workout has loads of caffeine and other stimulants. And depending on the time of day, those stimulants will have certain effects on your circadian rhythm and things like that. So let's say you consume pre-workout, assuming this pre-workout. When we say pre-workout in this podcast, I mean, or at least this particular episode, I'm referring to pre-workout that has other stimulants and includes loads of caffeine. That's what I mean by pre-workout. Other stimulants may include beta-alanine, arginine. I think that's the way you pronounce it. Anyway, so any caffeine consumed after 2 p.m. is known to disrupt your circadian rhythm because cortisol is not meant to spike at that level after 2 p.m. So in the morning, typically after 30 minutes after waking up is the right time to take it. Or like at least after 30 minutes of waking up is the right time to take it. So that if you're going to work out in the morning, pre-workout has a lot less health downsides, whereas I used to take it at night, which is just horrid now that I understand the importance of sleep, which is so fundamental. I can't believe I was so heavy into bodybuilding and didn't even understand that sleep was, when you really think about it, this isn't my quote, but I forgot this name, the guy's name. I'm really sorry, whoever you are, if you're watching this. Muscle isn't built in the gym, it's built in the sleep, and that's absolutely true. So messing with your sleep just to put on muscle is completely asinine in every way. So taking it at night or anything after 2 p.m. can definitely interfere with your sleep and therefore your muscle building. So there's really no point in taking pre-workout or caffeine after that, unless you have other endeavors like try to make money or something. Then, whatever, do what you want. But say you're taking it in the morning, because we've already covered it, taking it at night. Once again, take it after 30 minutes after waking up, and with that, you'll still receive some health downsides, and that's just usually from the ingredients and depending on the amount of caffeine that's in the dosage you've chose. So let's say you did 1.5 scoops, that's probably 350 milligrams or about that. Some pre-workouts have DMHA, DMAA, which is some of those are illegal steroids, things like that. I will admit I've tried DMHA, which is like the closest chemical compound to methamphetamine you can possibly get. It's legal. Not sure why I'm bragging about that, but you can find it in pre-workout. Point is, pre-workout has a lot of crazy stuff in it, and that's why it's important to pay attention to the dosage and the time of day. So basically, when it comes to taking caffeine, or taking pre-workout rather, the amount of caffeine does depict the amount of energy input and fluctuation you'll experience throughout the day. So say you took 300 milligrams of caffeine about an hour after waking up, so let's say 9 a.m. By the time, let's say 5 p.m. rolls around, obviously that caffeine will have wore off, and with every up, there's a down. At that point, at 5 p.m., you're probably going to have energy levels just tanked. Now, of course, it depends on every person. Everybody's different, so I'm sure you've heard of people who've taken pre-workout and experienced nothing, and people have taken pre-workout and borderline had a heart attack, which I've had 1,000 different experiences. It really depends on the company you use, the dosage, all that good stuff. So, and just a little take on my personal philosophy on working out. Now, let's say your number one goal with working out is legitimately to just get big and strong. Then I understand why pre-workout might be a little bit more important, assuming that you're taking it in the morning and not after 2 p.m. or certainly anywhere near bedtime. But otherwise, for most people, they work out for the sake of getting more energy and feeling better throughout the rest of the day. And you certainly wouldn't get those benefits if you were taking pre-workout during the workout. The point of pre-workout is to amplify your capability during the workout so that you get more results out of the workout, assuming the results are, in this case, getting bigger and stronger, which would, increasing fast-twitch muscle fiber. It could be slow twitch as well, endurance and things like that, which pre-workout might actually decrease your endurance if you didn't know that. I might discuss that separately. But generally, with most people, they work out for the sake of having more energy and a greater mood throughout the rest of the day, or to live longer. And also, in that case, taking pre-workout would definitely not assist you in living longer. I think that's pretty easy to believe for most people. So, generally, taking pre-workout is pointless if your number one endeavor is not working out, if that makes sense. Now, that might vary a lot. Maybe you're someone young who doesn't have much else to do and you think working out's great. Pre-workout's okay. I certainly wouldn't recommend it for young people. I can't say I recommend it to anybody on earth because it does have its downsides. So So yeah, if your goal is to work out to feel better, do not take pre-workout. If your number one goal is to put on muscle, get as big and as strong as possible, do as you please. Within reason, of course. Don't be taking 3 scoops of pre-workout your first time. You're going to end up in a hospital. Next topic is protein powder. So when it comes to protein powder, there's 1,000 different types, different brands, different companies, influencers, things like that. So I want to stick with something that's very predictable. Let's say Rise protein powder. Overall, pretty good company. There's some stuff I don't like about them, but let's go with them. They're pretty common, popular. So let's go with them. They have medium chain high glycerides, good protein quality, good flavors. Of course, if you tried Rise, you know they taste like candy. And all that good stuff. So let's go with the average Rise protein powder, which doesn't have a bunch of crap in it. Its usefulness is really determined by your own lifestyle. I can't actually, I think it's hard to just prescribe protein powder, particularly on when things are so specific here. There's too many variables to prescribe it. So I would recommend protein powder when someone needs the protein soon, which it's definitely beneficial. I'll discuss this on a separate episode on the adequate times to consume protein, depending on your goals. So I would recommend protein powder or protein shake, some quick form of protein. And the reason I'd recommend one alternative to the other is because protein powder has usually less quality protein compared to actual meat, compared to, chicken or red meat. I'm not an advocate for chicken at all, but generally the protein quality is better in chicken than in protein powder. That's why I consider protein powder to be a form of compromise. That's why I will only advocate for it in certain situations. So let's say you don't have time to cook chicken or you don't have anything frozen that you can just, have right away. Protein powder is a great alternative. You can just blend it up and it's ready. That's really the only time I'd advocate for it. Other than that, I'd go for some nice, good old red meat. But generally, right after a workout or even during a workout or even before a workout, actually, consuming protein is great and protein powder can definitely come in handy. So another thing is, make sure the source of your protein powder is healthy. Rise is a good company. I do trust them a bit. Medium chain high glycerides are a great source of fat. But with Rise, they do add a little bit of kernel oil, which is a seed oil, unfortunately. Coconut oil is great. I consume coconut oil pretty often. When I'm not on animal-based particularly, I do switch sometimes because my goals do switch, depending on if I'm doing MMA, bodybuilding, or other things like that. So, but unfortunately, Rise does have a little bit of iffy ingredients, but generally they're a pretty good company. So if you're looking for a company, one good company is Rise, another one is Isopure, things like that. So if you're looking for a good company, those are the two I recommend. Other than that, I would do a lot of research on the company, find some people with their best interests in mind to do a little research on them as well, because there's a whole lot of depth to the industry, the ingredients that are used, the people behind each company. Don't just watch a certain YouTuber who does a lot of bodybuilding and has similar interests and buy their protein powder. I think that's a pretty big trap that a lot of people go into. Nothing against the bodybuilders to do that. It's just they aren't supplement developers. They aren't nutritionists or by any means. They just do bodybuilding and happen to be a little popular. Those aren't the people you want to be getting protein powder from. You want to find companies who are credible. It sounds a little weird, but the best boxing coaches aren't the best boxers in the world. They're people who have been spending time learning how to train, learning how to teach that, not learning how to do it, right? Bodybuilders don't know enough about protein powder and the ingredients to be teaching it. There needs to be nutritionists and other people within that field teaching you and showing you what's in it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be buying name brand. Like by name brand, I mean like Sebum protein powder, or if David Lade has protein powder. I used to listen to these guys a long time ago, so that's why I know their names. But yeah, get your protein sources. You get your protein powder and other supplements like related to bodybuilding. Pre-workout creatine, protein powder from companies that are credible, like Rise and Isopure. Now on to creatine. So as weird as it sounds, there's actually not much to say about creatine. It's the most studied supplement in the entire world. At least I'm pretty sure that's still the statistic. Creatine increases your muscle mass. It's also a nootropic, and I can explain why. I don't know the exact chemical compound, brain chemistry reason for it because I'm not that smart. But I'm going to resort to the caveman stuff. Cavemen were consuming red meat almost daily, if not, maybe not almost daily. They might have been consuming red meat literally every single day. And red meat has a lot of creatine in it. And the thing with adaptation is our bodies didn't just get red meat and get all the nutrients immediately. From hundreds of thousands of years ago, we've adapted to absorb all of the nutrients within red meat. We didn't just get red meat and get all the nutrients. Our bodies decided, okay, we're consuming red meat. We've been consuming red meat for tens of thousands of years. We're going to adapt. Of course, it didn't have the conscious choice to do this, but eventually it adapted to absorb as much nutrients from red meat as humanly possible. And creatine happens to be one of those ingredients. Now, like I've said, we've been consuming red meat for hundreds of thousands of years, if not more than that. I'm actually not very good with the timeline, so don't quote me on any of that stuff, which is a little unprofessional because I know this podcast talks about cavemen so much, but generally, pretty sure we've been consuming red meat for about hundreds of thousands of years, and creatine is one of the most potent ingredients within red meat, and our bodies have adapted to use creatine in the best ways it can, and one of the ways to kind of prove that we've adapted with red meat so well is that the ingredients within red meat just kind of they're so fundamental to our bodies, and something like creatine is one of the biggest testaments to that fact. Creatine has massive benefits in countless realms. That includes muscle growth, injury prevention. It's a nootropic, so it literally boosts your brain function. It's actually known to even cure, or at least treat depression, which is just, if that doesn't tell you that we've adapted with these nutrients for hundreds of thousands of years, then I don't know what does. I mean, of course, there's history that proves this, but it's just a testament to how fundamentally important these nutrients are for us. They have so many benefits, and that wouldn't be the case if we haven't adapted with it. The reason vegetables have such little bioavailable nutrients to humans particularly is because we haven't consumed them enough for our bodies to be like, oh, we need to use these. We need to learn how to adapt with these nutrients and consume them. Consume, I mean, like, when I say bioavailable nutrients, I mean there's nutrients within vegetables, but humans aren't even able to absorb it because we're not adapted. Our guts aren't adapted to absorb those nutrients. Whereas red meat is something that, like I've said a billion times, we've adapted with 100,000 of years, and our guts are meant and built to absorb as much nutrients from that as possible. This is all just to highlight the importance of something like creatine. I think almost everybody should be consuming creatine, and you can get sufficient creatine from just consuming red meat. You don't have to take any creatine if you're getting enough red meat. The unfortunate side is that a lot of the bodybuilding space promotes just white rice, broccoli, and chicken, which if you understand animal-based, you know that that's as far from animal-based as you can possibly get. Now, I'm not most of my education is actually in putting on muscle, but I'm having struggles tying in longevity to that, and a big part of the longevity space, at least now because of the whole animal-based movement, is comprised of the animal-based diet, and I'm trying to figure out right now how to incorporate bodybuilding modalities to the animal-based diet and seeing how well that'll work out. Right now, whenever I'm doing forms of bodybuilding, or even doing MMA stuff, which is a lot of cardio, I will do just animal-based, and then I'll add white rice to that. If you know white rice is very, very good for putting on muscle and athletic performance as a whole. So I'll basically just add that as a little cherry on top. White rice is certainly not animal-based, but I'll still add it just because it's great for putting on muscle. That's kind of how I intertwine the two realms of bodybuilding and animal-based. I'm not sure if that's really the right way to do it, but that's how I roll. But it's not common you'll see professional bodybuilders getting lots of red meat. I'm pretty sure the reason is because of the amount of fat that's within it. When you look at bodybuilders, they're not actually consuming a whole lot of fat. Fat has a lot of benefits on testosterone and building muscle, but they all have their particular reasons. So let's say a bodybuilder's bulking versus cutting. Their diet does differ pretty heavily, so I'm not going to make too many comments on that. But if you want to put on muscle, having red meat is extremely important. So even if you're cutting, it's safe to say red meat is a great way to go. But yeah, back to creatine. I know my rants can go a little far, but yeah, back to creatine. So creatine is obviously very fundamental. Increases your brain function, reduces likelihood of injury, builds muscle, athletic performance, all that good stuff. So generally, I'd recommend for everyone to be consuming it. And again, you can get enough of it from red meat. So yeah, you don't need to be taking creatine. Just eat some red meat. There you go. Now, BCAAs are a pretty controversial supplement. If you've been in the bodybuilding space for long enough, you've heard a lot of different, very differing opinions on it. Some people have massive advocates for it. Some people sell it. Some people don't like it at all. They like to pick at it a lot. I actually like to pick at it a lot because if you're in the bodybuilding space, you probably do consume a lot of protein if you are actively doing bodybuilding like stuff. And let's say you're consuming adequate protein. BCAAs are no different than consuming Kool-Aid. They do absolutely nothing for you at all. BCAAs are really just there they're kind of like a fail-safe in case you don't get sufficient protein. That would generally be the only use for BCAAs. If you are consuming sufficient protein, the BCAAs, once again, are no different than Kool-Aid or some flavored drink. They do absolutely nothing for you. So I think that's enough I have to say on BCAAs. They're pointless. Don't be buying them. So if you couldn't tell already, my definition of supplements is pretty diverse. I'll include creatine, magnesium, and probiotics, which is my next topic. And probiotics really aren't a supplement in my opinion, but I'll also discuss them on this podcast because I don't know where else they belong. So basically, probiotics are let's count them as a bonus to your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome was basically it's a biome of living bacteria that is built to absorb and fight off certain things within your gut. And probiotics play a role in diversifying your gut microbiome, which is a very vast topic. The gut microbiome is unbelievably complex. That's why it's called a biome, because it's not just organisms. It's a group of different organisms working together to accomplish a goal. In this case, the goal being to elevate your health as much as possible. So when it comes to probiotics, the role is to elevate your gut microbiome diversity, which allows you to absorb more things, fight off more things, regulate hormones and things like that. You can get probiotics in pill form, as supplementation, or you can actually just consume the right foods and drinks and just get the benefits of having a diverse microbiome. Something I like to choose a lot is consuming raw milk. Raw milk is another whole food like red meat. It has just unbelievable benefits. Actually, milk as a whole is a whole food, but raw milk is where the heat is at. So actually, heat is an ironic term because the reason that other forms of milk, which aren't raw, whole milk, 2% milk, all that good stuff, the reason the nutrients aren't as bioavailable or even available as a whole in those forms of milk is because they're heated up in their process of being delivered or other processes. I'm not entirely sure. But raw milk is, as the word says, is straight out of the cow's udder and delivered straight to your door or wherever you get it. And whole milk, raw milk is one of the most beneficial foods you can possibly consume. It has unbelievable amounts of bacteria in it. But these bacteria, you'd hear bacteria and probably think, oh, that's bad, I want to stay away from that. But your gut is entirely comprised of different forms of bacteria. It's literally a gut microbiome, so there's probably millions of different types. And diversity is what makes it such a healthy gut. And when it comes to raw milk, it's just filled with different types of bacteria and fundamental little bacteria organisms that our bodies have actually adapted to use for hundreds of thousands of years. Even when we were cavemen, or even during the Mesopotamian era, during those early civilization times, we were consuming raw milk pretty often. Cavemen didn't just see a cow and want to kill it often. They probably saw opportunity for milk because maybe they saw the little baby cow doing it. I don't know the motives behind wanting to milk a cow. It's probably a little weird process, but when it comes to that, raw milk is incredibly important. Raw milk is just one of those things that humans have adapted to use and have been brought up with us for hundreds of thousands of years. And it's the same story with red milk. Sorry, with red meat, not red milk. I don't know where you find that. It sounds pretty cool, actually. But with red meat, it's the same story. So red meat is something we've had for hundreds of thousands of years. So as our bodies have adapted to be able to absorb the nutrients within it. And it's the same exact thing with raw milk. The vast diversity within the bacteria in raw milk is something that's adapted with our guts and made our guts much more healthy and resilient to other bad bacteria, makes us better absorbing certain things, get better hormones, 1,000 different things, because the gut is actually incredibly fundamental for your health as a whole. Having a bad gut is just having bad health as a whole. If you have a bad gut, you're not gonna put on much muscle because your hormones are out of whack. There was actually a study in children, let me check really quick, that showed when children were consuming raw milk more consistently at a younger age, there was massively lowered rates of asthma, eczema, things like that. Let me see here. Children who grew up drinking raw milk instead of boiled milk were less likely to develop allergies, including asthma, dermatitis, and other stuff during childhood. That's what it says. So yeah, I mean that's one of the many reasons you should be consuming it. Not just the study, but the fact that it's something we've adapted to have, just like red meat. So if you're looking to be healthy, raw milk is I don't like the term life or biohack because it's a weird space. It's kind of a snake oil-ish weird stuff, but if there's any way to biohack, it's consume some raw milk. I mean, 2 cups of that and you're going to feel different probably. It's pretty wild stuff. So raw milk is the ultimate probiotic. Other than that, there's a company called, I think, Life Aid. I don't want to butcher that because I do like the company. The ingredients are pretty good. Let me check really quick. It's Health Aid. Health Aid, yeah. They actually have a lot of drinks in stores, which I've picked up a few times. They work as probiotics. They have lots of diverse bacteria that are great for our gut, and it kind of functions the same way as raw milk. Actually, the same way, just not quite as good because raw milk is really unbeatable. But that's one of the alternatives to just consuming probiotics. You can, again, get it in supplement form, drink form, but generally the best bang for your buck is raw milk. So that's where I'd go from there. A little side note, I'll probably touch on some more on a future podcast episode, is antibiotics. So antibiotics are, as it says in the name, antibio, so it kills forms of life. In this case, it would be probably gut bacteria. And antibiotics are usually prescribed to fight certain bacteria, funguses, and things like that. So the purpose of it is basically to nuke your gut, so kill everything in it, or within a reason, of course. If you killed everything, you'd probably be dead. But kill everything within reason to prevent that fungus or bacteria or sickness from growing any further. Now, you can actually fight diseases much greater and efficiently. By efficiently, I mean with less detriment to your health by doing Wim Hof breathing, things like that. Just having a proper diet, exercising enough, and getting cold exposure. There's a billion other things you can do that doctors won't even tell you about. But I can certainly tell you that throwing nuclear bombs into your gut isn't really going to help as much. When you look at people who just have a healthy, dynamic lifestyle, they get sick much less than people taking antibiotics. Antibiotics, literally, it's essentially dropping a bomb into your gut, and which, I mean, it'll kill the bacteria in there. But then the same bacteria responsible for fighting off other bacteria is now gone, and you're kind of just left there to fight some more. And that's one of the many tricks that Big Pharma will kind of pull you into is, you have X sickness. Take this pill that'll cure X sickness. Oh, now you have Y sickness. I'll take this cure that'll help with Y sickness. But all those cures are now amplifiers for other sicknesses in a way. So, yeah, I would definitely avoid antibiotics as much as possible. Don't start, because once you start, you're probably going to need them for a lot longer. It is possible to get off of it, I'm pretty sure. Once again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, but definitely avoid those. Stick with a healthy, dynamic lifestyle, and you'll never need an antibiotic, or almost never need an antibiotic. I don't want to go too far and say you'll never need one, but almost. So today we've covered magnesium, cordyceps, and other mushrooms, tonkat ali, vitamin D, omega-3, pre-workout, protein powder, creatine, and probiotics. So if that's not a good bang for your buck for an episode, I don't know what does, because I've just covered basically every supplement you can name that's reasonable to talk about for an hour. If this didn't help you and there's other supplements you'd like to hear about, please message me, comment, do something to tell me so I can give a little bonus education. That's what I'm here for. So any questions you have, any comments, please let me know, and I'll get back to you pretty short. If there's any takeaways from this episode, I say it's that a good diet requires zero supplementation, and if there's any bonuses to take, it's cordyceps or magnesium. Thanks for watching today's episode. We hope you've learned something valuable. The Candid Podcast also offers personal training for up to 2 weeks free for a select number of viewers, so grab the offer while you can.